Oh, all right. Welcome everyone. It is 10 a.m. PST. So let's jump into the session. I've been looking forward to this for the last couple of weeks. This is transitioning to an engineering manager, and we have Ujjwala here, who's an engineering manager at Plenty of Fish, and we also have Ankit, who's an SDM or a senior software development manager at Discovery. Can you switch to the next slide? Most of you may already know, but in case you don't, SDE Skills is a volunteer-led 501c3 nonprofit organization. We set ourselves up in 2017, and we have been pretty much serving the community since about 2010 in different capacities. But since 2017, we have been formally set up as a 501c3 nonprofit. Our primary focus is actually to improve the technical skills of the engineering community. So if you haven't joined us, please join us at the SDE Skills Discord. The way to get there is sdskills.com/discord, and you'll get notified about new sessions, and there's daily lead code practice. There is weekly system design, mock interviews, and a whole bunch of other sessions. So lots of fun. It's about 8,800 members plus at this point of time and growing. So happy to have you and happy to host you all. Just a quick reminder, as folks who are on Clubhouse, Clubhouse is actually on listen only at this point of time, so I wouldn't be inviting people on the stage. If you want to speak or if you want to chat, do back channel me on Clubhouse. I'm happy to answer the question or ask the question on your behalf. And otherwise, the best way to interact would be to join on Zoom so that you can engage with the discussion as well. So with that, let's actually move on. Hey, Ujjwala, welcome. Go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Vivek. I see some familiar faces and some new ones. So welcome, everybody. I'm Ujjwala. I recently transitioned into an engineering manager role at Plenty of Fish. Plenty of Fish is a dating company, and my team manages the core experiences in the company. And by core experiences, I mean the dating profiles and messaging. Before joining Plenty of Fish, I was a senior engineer at Microsoft. And overall, I have about 16 years of experience in the tech industry in various domains like retail and core technology, and now the exciting world of dating. I have also worked in small startup-like companies and large companies in various places like Bangalore, Seattle, and Vancouver. At heart, I am mother to a very spunky girl, a young girl, and a very high energy dog. And I live with my family in Vancouver, Canada. And I enjoy the abundance of nature that we have surrounding us. At Twitter, you can find me at Ujjwala if you have any questions. That's about me. Let's hear about Ankit.
Thanks, Ujjwala. Hey guys, thank you for joining today. My name is Ankit, as you see. I am a senior software development manager at Discovery. Discovery is a OTT company. We provide streaming application for Discovery content. Before getting to the SDM, I started like anybody else, like intern, SDE, tech lead, mobile architect, and get to the SDM. I have been with Discovery for 2 years, so I have been doing the engineering manager role for about 2 years. In terms of education, I have a bachelor's and master's in computer science. The personal front, I'm a father of a 6-month-old boy who didn't sleep yesterday night. So I was awake with him as well, and I'm a husband to a very talented and supportive wife. I think on hobbies side, I go hiking around Seattle Northwest of Washington, and play tennis in the leagues. So that's about me. Let's go to the next slide. This is going to be the agenda. The goal of Vivek, were you trying to say something?
No, go ahead.
So this is the agenda. We are going to talk about what are the essential skills of engineering manager. What do we do? How do we prepare for engineering manager interviews, and why you should even try, going to engineering manager path. And in the end, we will also share some resources which helped us getting to it. And then Q&A is the most important part of this session today. So we are very excited to talk about that. I'm going to go to the next slide. Before we actually talk about HDM, essential skills or go into the agenda, I would like to ask Ujjwal, like, why did you decide to share your expertise today, or like present to people?
Sure. So when I started, or I decided that I want to pursue this management role, I was surprised to see how much lack of information out there is. Even if you search on Google how to transition into management position, the most often recommendation that you get is grow in your current team or current company. Unfortunately, that option wasn't available for me. So I wanted to see how I can do it while joining the new company. But there was not much material that I got. Like even if you search on Blind, which is like filled up with interview preparation material, you don't get many hits. So I went through this journey, and my goal is to share my journey and give you some head start if you are trying to make that journey yourself.
Thank you, Ujjwal. That's totally true for me as well, that I wanted to present and come up with the idea of how you break down the task of transitioning to a different role and how you take it forward, right? So by end of the presentation today, you will, like everybody here will know what HDMs do, and how can you be comfortable in thinking about getting to a new role which is not directly related to your what you're doing right now. So that's that. To start with, we divided or broke down the responsibilities of the HDMs. What skills does it take? So you can see like the 70 to 80% of the work of HDMs, you can do it as an IC, like a senior engineer or tech lead. You must already be doing that. So that's that. I know like most of the people must be thinking that we are talking about what HDMs do, but the most widely, the notion is that HDMs just get paid to do nothing. But we are going to change that perspective a little bit today. I'm going to go to the next one. So we broke down the HDM's work into two parts, the product and project management, and also people management, and also the interpersonal or the soft skills you will need to do all this work. The first part of that is project management. I think when you start as an engineering manager, for first 3-6 months, or even like longer than that, you will be hands-on and doing all of these responsibilities. The work start with the project initiation and planning. And by project initiation, I mean the feature initiation or task and all those things. When you are an engineering manager, you look forward for 1 quarter, 2 quarter, or sometime a year or two, and figure out what you would need in terms of resourcing. How many people would you need? How many supporting roles will be there? And then your role as an SDM, you see in the bracket here, will be a product owner or a scrum master. Like later in the stage, or in some companies, you will get those roles with different people, and they can help you out there. But in most companies, you will be doing those roles in an interim manner. So quarterly planning happens and roadmap happens. Then you figure out what is the team needs is going to be, and that convert into your hiring goals, and then you start going into the recruitment. And once you do that, then you keep iterating that over and over again, and then you go into that 2 weeks sprint, or moving toward a Scrum methodology. And in that, you try to deliver that goes to the execution mode, and you try to deliver the code deliveries, right? And then you become a project lead or a tech lead. So now you are changing the hats you're wearing, a different role. and you do that interim while you figure out who is going to be your tech lead in the team. You do a lot of solutioning, architecture, design reviews. That happens, and it happens very much in the beginning. But as you keep growing, then you will spend less time on that and more time on people management side. Coding part. I know the most people think that you wouldn't be doing coding. When you start to an engineering manager role, you are thinking about starting at the lowest level of that path. And I think the first few months you will be coding, but the goal is to move away from coding in your team as soon as you can, and start doing more of solutioning, architecture, and then people management side. But a lot of people think that they like coding, and I am one of them. So I spend some of the time coding on my own time, about on my personal apps, and some lead code stuff. When I'm interviewing, I code those as well. So that happens. Once you figure out your education, you go into the release, and then there you become a release manager, metric owner, delivery manager, and you have to figure out what is the release cadence is going to be, right? And once you put the code into the production, as a manager, you have to keep an eye on the performance metrics, how the APIs latency is, if you are working on the front end, how the loading time look like, and how you can improve them. So you also become an owner of your tech backlog. You have to figure out and prioritize the work and get into your backlog to keep getting it done. And analytics becomes your main goal. Everything you do, you look at the analytics, make a metric-driven decision. That is very important. So this is about project and product management. I know most tech leads are kind of involved in that. So this is to just make you comfortable that as a manager, you will be doing this as well. So you are kind of already there. I will transition it to the next part, which is about people management, and Ujjwal would be talking about it.
Thank you, Ankit. So as a engineering manager, people management is one of your main responsibilities, right? So as a manager, what is your end goal? To get more work done, right? To get things done. And the goal of people management is also same, to get more things done by getting the maximum throughput out of your team. How do we do that, right? Recruiting right set of people, setting the clear direction, training, and also motivating. Before you think about changing anything in order to build high performing team, I think the effort should start with assessing the current team. If you are hired to build a new team, then the process starts with what is the goal of your team, and once that is established, recruitment. However, many times we inherit the team. So it becomes important to understand the team goal of what is the end goal that your team is formed for, and also analyzing the purpose of each employee, right? What is the individual team member's strength, and what is the team need? And once you have the gap, then you come up with a plan. One of the way is by empowering each employee to be more creative, more innovative, thinking outside the box. Because on our daily basis, we will be solving multitude of problems, and we want everybody to feel empowered to um, give the solution to the problems, right? So one of the ways, and that is very close to my heart, is by creating a blameless environment. So when the things go south, instead of concentrating on who, concentrate on what went wrong, why it went wrong. As an SDM, you will be driving retros. You will be also sharing that with the leadership. So in the retros, don't talk about people, talk about processes that failed you and that raised to the production incident. Moving on to the individual growth, we are so busy with delivering the project. This is oftentimes an overlooked area. So you have to encourage your employees to come up with an individual growth plan. And you can help here in two ways. One is you have more clarity about what your team needs. you have more clarity into organization needs, right? So when an individual comes up with the growth plan, you can set direction here and see how it aligns with your team needs and the organization needs. Another important thing that we can do is, as an SDM, is uh, regularly check in with the employee so that when it just doesn't stay as a plan on the paper, but actually materializes, and you keep motivating to achieve that plan. So moving on to the recruitment on onboarding, we have all been part of recruitment, right? Either on as an interviewee or on the other side. While it is stressful, like I always thought that it is stressful because I am interviewing, I want to, one thing that I realized when I went through recruitment process is it is also very effort heavy for an hiring manager as well. So I will skip more towards, I'll skip the recruitment and talk more about onboarding because I feel as an SEM, this is a crucial time where you can build trust uh, between you and the new employee. And also you can help set up your new employee for the success by creating an onboarding plan. Even before the employee joins, have a mental picture of what the employee is going to work. Don't be reactive. So in here, you can set them up for success by um, giving them access to right set of tools, helping them with dev processes or understanding the company processes, and also connecting them with the right set of people that they will be interacting with on for their job. Basically, making them feel welcome. The next part is managing expectations. Ankit, you manage a large team. So how do you go about managing expectation and sharing feedback with your team?
Thanks, Ujjwala. You covered a lot of things, and the key points were like onboarding is a kind of first impression. You have to make sure that it's a great experience for the new people, blameless culture, and individual growth. That is kind of the main goal of an SDM all through the end, I guess. But how do you do that? You have to work on expectations. So when you talk about expectations, there are two parties involved. One is doing something and expecting something in return, and the second party is doing that as well. What do I do and what do I get in return? It's kind of an expectation. But when you are an SDM, you are in the middle of, say, a leadership in a company, and then your direct reportees, and you have to manage expectation of the company and also your reportees who want to grow, right? What are their expectations in their career in the company outside of it, right? So there are four parties involved, and you are two parties of that, right? So you have to figure out how to do it. But the base, like this is a big topic. The base of it is this communication. You communicate a lot with both the parties, and you make sure the expectations are written down, and both parties are agreed upon it. Not only the expectation, but the time of that, like duration, how much are we delivering in what time. And once you have that figured out, then you go into feedbacks. The feedbacks are very important part of SDM life, that you have to keep seeking that, and you have to keep providing that as well. So you're providing feedback to your reportees, and that happens in one-on-one sessions. And one-on-one sessions are also the most important meetings for an SDM. It becomes tougher when your employees are not performing or meeting the expectation you have set. Then you have to figure out how to communicate that, right? And make sure that you are only communicating the part of the expectations which are missed, and you're also communicating what expectations are people managing or meeting and basically exceeding, right? So most probably people meet like 90% of expectation in the middle roles, and then you only talk about like 10% and 90% about them. Then you go to the delegation, right? When, like Ujjwal talked about individual growth, that happens when, and say you have a senior engineer in the team and they want to do a tech lead, right? As I talked about in the last slide, as an SDM, you also do some kind of tech lead work. So how can you delegate that work to your senior engineer so they can learn and grow? But when, before becoming an SDM, I always thought delegation means just give your work to somebody else and not do it and like get your time to do something else. But delegation doesn't remove, the responsibility or accountability comes with it. So you still own things, but you are giving more opportunities to people and working with them until they own that responsibility. And then you move on, keep doing the other thing. Now we talked about building the high performing team and how to manage expectations, the feedbacks and delegation. If you are doing all of that, but you have to have a process somewhere in the company to go talk about your talent, and the talent is the employees who are reporting to you. So there are HR processes which you have to go through, which basically in some companies happens once a year. Some companies it's like a quarterly or even half a yearly, right? So you talk about your top performers in front of your direct management and also your peers and with HR. So you can reward the top performers with different things, and they can be, higher compensation, stocks, equity, or promotions. They all go into the talent review thing, and you also have to champion your team and provide them the support they need. For an example, say you are leading a team of Android applications, like 5 engineers, and one of them want to work on iOS. But as an SDM of Android team, you do not have that authority. You do not have those, opportunities to provide that to your employees. So in the talent review, you also talk about that one of your engineer is looking to do this, and other SDMs, other people in the company will help in, get those opportunities to your direct reportees. So that helps a lot as well. Now we go, so this is about, the HR processes and how to build a high performing team. But now we go into one major, it's not a responsibility, but it happens a lot. It's called change management. It itself is a big subject. There are like courses about it and degrees about it, but we are going to take 2 minutes to talk about it as well. There are two types of change which happens in your career. One is that you introduce, right? You join a team and you start into a team and you want to improve it, right? You want to improve the state of the software your team is building. How would you do that? You have to introduce the changes, right? The second is that when your leadership want to change, or when your company uh, pivot and they go into different direction, they introduce changes as well. So as an SDM, you are in between there, and you have to understand those changes, the goals. And if you disagree with those, you have to clear those disagreement with the reasoning and get that cleared up before you talk to your employees and have them agreed upon. The changes you introduce, you have to figure out who would be the most affected by those changes and what is the goal, and you introduce that to those people and have them lead the changes for you. So even though it's not a responsibility, but you are going to spend a lot of time on that. This is about people management side. And also a quick note, you can see what you can do from these responsibilities as an IC, like a senior engineer or tech lead, or even like a staff. What can you do from these? The next is, now that we talked about that you do project and product management, you also a tech lead or release manager or a scrum master and a people manager, right? How do you do those? Like, what are the interpersonal skills do you need? I think the most important skill is listening. And by listening, I don't mean that you sit in a corner in a meeting room and then do not speak. By listening, you have to ask, you have to be curious to know things. You have to ask right questions and listen in the different perspective provided to you. So as an SGM, when you get into it, you would think that you would be speaking all the time. You would be sharing your expertise with the team, but that is not how it works. You have to just figure out how to listen in, be curious, keep an open mind, because your perspectives are going to be changing very rapidly in the first 3-6 months, and you should be open about it. The next is story building and storytelling. Everybody know what is storytelling is, right? you have a set of events happen and you want to group them together and then present it to audience. Audience can be your own team when you're presenting your goals, or the company information to your team, or your team's information to to management or to other people. Like I talked about the talent review meeting, right? You do that storytelling. Story building is a little different. So when you are going through the path of different events, you want to keep communicating those, right? Let's say we talked about change management. You don't tell people that what has changed. You start with that this is going to change. Like what are the perspective towards it, and you start building that story with people. You be more transparent. One of the example can be as an engineer. Say we are working on a tech improvement of something, and we spend like 2 months, but do not get the result out of it. If you do not build your story to the right people, if you do not keep telling about what you have been doing, what are your goals, and when it is changing, you have to communicate that as well. Otherwise, you will go in the end and you will say like, I tried this, it did not work. But that is not going to help you. So you have to work on story building. On the communication side, I will transition it to Ujjwal so he can talk about the type of communication and how to do it.
Uh, Thanks, Ankit. So can't emphasize more about thinking. We have 2 ears, one mouth, and there is a reason for that. So more listening in definitely helps. Regarding communication, as an SDM, there will be three types of communication you will be doing. One is within the team, with the leadership, and also to collaborate with the other peers in your organization. So as an SDM, you are the glue between your team and the leadership, right? So you have to balance what you communicate from leadership to your team. You have to filter out information as it's necessary, because if you are just doing transferring of the knowledge, then you are not doing any value add. One of the thing in within the team that really helps is to communicate how what projects you are doing fit in the larger scheme of organization needs. It always empowers or motivates individuals to know that what work they are doing, how it impacts the organization, or what value add is it doing, what is the importance of it, right? You also do manage expectations, and we have already talked about it in the feedback and the team needs. Regarding your communication with the leadership, it's more about setting the prioritization. They would want you to deliver more, but you know your team's throughput, and you also know the bandwidth, right? So you have to protect the team and prioritize the work that we are going to do. Another thing is nobody likes surprises. So constantly share the status of your project with the leadership, and also champion your team. Market the team wins. Market the things that your team is doing. That way, when you are building a story around somebody's promotion, leadership already knows about that, and you can get an easy approval. Peer-to-peer is more about collaboration. So sometimes you are working on interdependent milestones. So how do you collaborate and get work done? So you do communicate your planning and what you come up with the release calendar and stuff like that. Moving on to the time management and prioritization. As an SDM, you are not only responsible for your own individual time management, but also your team's time management, right? And you help there by prioritization. You have the bigger picture. So even if the developer is thinking that the bug is needs to be worked, maybe in bigger scheme of things, it can be moved to the tech debt backlog, or can be taken later, and the employee can spend their time on more important in frying the more important fishes. So prioritization helps. Delegation also is part of time management, but on interest of time, we will move on to the next slide.
Thanks, Jula. I want to emphasize that time management and prioritization helps your team, yes, but it also helps you when you start preparing for engineering manager role. You have to work on time management prioritization for yourself. Like that is how you will be able to prepare like on anything. It will make your life much easier. Let's go into the next one, which is interview prep. What kind of interviews are there? What do you do? How do you get to the engineering manager position? And the first is how you like what are the paths to get to the engineering manager position, and Ujjwala is going to talk about it as well, all those things.
Cool. So there are three, as the slide mentions, in the current team. This is organic. This is natural. If this is the option that you have, awesome. I'm happy for you. A lot of times, though, that option is not possible because there is no open position, right? Or your team is small, and you can't wait for your manager to resign or retire to get to the management position. But at the same time, it is also important because, Ankit, can you go back to the slide?
Sorry, yeah, I think I'll have to reshare because it moved. Okay, we are talking about this. Sorry.
Okay. So in the current team, you know the processes, you know the people, and as a senior engineer or tech lead, you must be also doing the half of the job that your manager does. But that option only few of us get, right? So the second option is you can go for transitioning as a manager in the current company. No, you know the processes, you know the culture. All you have to do is learn the new people. So in large companies, if you are making this transition, you will have to go through an interview loop. Not the full loop, but there will be some interviews involved, like system design or coding. Behavioral, you may have some relaxation there. And you can work with your manager. If your manager thinks you are ready, but he just doesn't have open position, he does have a visibility in the organization needs. So if he has any open position, he knows about any open position in other organization, maybe work out with a plan with your manager. The third one is transitioning to another company. Now this is a little bit hard because in your current team, current company, you have history. People know about your strength. Uh, when you are transitioning to a new role in a new company, the interview process becomes important because you have like 6-7 hours to sell yourself, to tell or to convince people that you are ready for the role, even though you are not in that role in the current company. So that is about transitioning to another company, and we will get more into details when we share about journey. So let's talk about the interview loops and how the interview process looks like for an engineer manager.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Yeah, you mentioned that transitioning to another company is harder than the first two, but I think transition to another company has less limitations. Like you can sell yourself, you can, share your stories the way you want, and they don't have a way to know if you are, 100% doing things you're telling. But in current team and current company, people know your strengths, but they also know your weaknesses, right? So it's tough. And then somebody in the chat mentioned that there is no path for them in current team because the organization need or company need is not there. So that is, I think, getting promoted into current team is organic, but it's very difficult to do because your managers have to build a new team for you. You cannot just have the people working with you start reporting to you. That's very difficult, way to take it. Let's go to the next slide, talk about what the loops look like. So people who are giving interviews or tech lead or mobile architect, the loop is very similar. A recruiter calls to you, you talk about what you want to be doing the next job, what experience do you have, and then there is a hiring manager call where the hiring manager will sell the job opportunities to you, and you will try to have an opportunity to sell your skills to the hiring manager. And once you figure that out, then there is a real phone screen, And in my experience, there are coding involved. Sometimes it's just a star methodology questions and based on the company. In the on-site loop, you might go through all 4 management behavioral questions, or like how do you make decisions, how do you look at the metrics, how improvements you're going to make, how you work in the change management and all those things. Or you may have to go through system design and DS and algorithm round as well. And this is pretty generic, so we will move to our own experience of how did that happen with us. Next is transition journey. As Ujjwal just did it like 3 months ago. Ujjwal, do you want to share how it happened with you and what was your game plan, or what your experience there?
Sure, Ankit. So when I decided that I wanted to pursue this role, and it was about an year before I started actively applying for the role. I concentrated on learning the missing skills. As a tech lead and senior engineer, I was doing a lot of jobs, but those are not everything that SDM does, right? So I worked with my manager. I was already part of sprint planning, and I was already doing daily scrum, but I wanted to go beyond that. So I worked with my manager to get more visibility into objective key results planning, semester planning, quarterly planning. I also got involved in resource planning. And I I was already getting mentoring opportunities, so I kept an open mind and started accepting those opportunities. That is something you do outside of your job, but it is amazing how much you learn by being somebody's mentor. That was one about missing skills. Another thing is, before you start convincing other people that you are ready, I feel you have to convince yourself that you are ready. And how do we do that? So I relied on academics. I joined this course offered by Harvard Business School online, which is catered towards aspiring managers and new managers. So while I was getting theoretical knowledge about what management actually entails, I also got to network with many new managers from various industries, hospitality, finance, and then academics as well. So I could find the pattern, that the challenges that are faced by new managers. And I asked this question to myself: was I ready to take that take on those challenges, right? Once I convinced myself, then I started with the interview preparation. In the interview preparation, I want to talk about 3 things. One is I worked on my resume. My current resume screamed of individual contributions, right? But if I want to apply for a management role, then my resume also needs to highlight the essential skills that we talked about, and I am already doing, but I have not mentioned it on my resume. So your resume should also look like a manager's resume. So highlight the point, highlight your participation in planning, highlight how you influence a team for making a process better, highlight the initiatives that you led. My resume was screaming, I developed that, I developed this, I improved this, but I'm not saying here lie. I'm saying highlight the things that you wouldn't do as a individual contributor, because that is what people are interested in. Even when you are talking to recruiters, highlight the team influences, right? And another thing I was doing was system design. As a senior person, you are already aware of nooks and crooks of system design. But I also did this long course on educative.io, and it is mentioned in the references, which helped me in the interview itself and also as an engineer. And I really enjoyed that course. There is a shorter version, like grokking the system coding, but I didn't enjoy that part of it. But the longer course, where you actually talk about front end engineering as well as the backend engineering. So a lot of my time was invested in learning the system design that way. I also was already subscribed to the engineering blogs of like Uber, Facebook, Airbnb. During the interview process, I was actively spending time on those blogs and trying to understand the real life use cases or real life examples. So that was about my interview preparation. About my interview experience, it is like Ankit mentioned, it is similar to how you would go for a senior engineer, just more mix of star-based questions, right? So like any other job-seeking candidate, I made 3 categories of the company: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Started with tier 3. After 2-3 months, it became parallel. So talking to recruiters, telling yourself how you are ready, convincing them, all those things were involved. It is a lengthy process because you go through 5-6 loops. One of the frustration that I would like to share, because many of us who are going through this transition will go through it, is oftentimes you go through the entire loop and company comes back saying that we loved you, we want to hire you, but join us as an individual contributor, and in 8 to 10 months we will promote you to the manager. I wasn't open to that option because I felt I had that option even in my current company. And I felt so ready that I wasn't ready to wait for that long. But it is a viable option if there is a guarantee that you will be made manager after going in the IC role in the beginning period. So one more thing that I want to focus here is it is very important which company you decide to join if you are able to transition. Even though you feel you are ready, doing a formal, getting that formally, the roles and responsibilities, there are a lot of things that you will still be learning after transitioning in the new company, new processes, new systems that you will be accountable for, new people, and along with that, you are new to the role. So it is important that you go for the team, for the company that fosters learning, and they are ready to take you on and invest in your learning. I would stay away from companies which are known for aggressively hiring and firing people, because you will be dealing with new challenges and you want support, all the support that you need from your leadership to learn the new role. So that is about my interview experience. Ankit, do you want to talk about the initial period after the transition?
Before I do that, let me share some of the. You shared like a lot of things about how you prepared, how that interview experience went, and how you filled the missing skills. Let me talk about the game plan a little bit, right? What you should be thinking and how you should be getting to it. And a lot of people are asking these in the comments as well. When you get to the new role, which you have no clue about, right? The first thing I did when I was talking to my manager or engineering manager positions, and I have been getting those feedback regularly that you can be a great engineering manager just because you are easy to work with in the current team. The opportunity was not there for me as well to get to the engineering manager position in the team because it's so difficult to do for a manager to build a new manager in the team, because they cannot ask other people to report to you, start reporting to you. The people who were your friends, you were working with on day-to-day basis, they will feel betrayed. So that doesn't happen. What happens is your manager will start suggesting you that you apply to engineering manager position in the company, in the other teams. When you do that, you have to prepare. And when I started preparing, I was like, why am I limiting myself to just this? Why not apply outside, right? One thing which helped me is there is this 70-30% rule, right? When you try to get to a new position, you should be comfortable doing the 70% of the responsibility. And you should have a scope of learning about 30%. And when you go back and remember the slides we shared, there is 70% as a senior engineer technically you can do, right? And you can get to engineering manager position and, learn those skills. What I did was, first thing, I did not prepare a resume. Like your LinkedIn is your running and live resume. So if somebody is asking you to, this is mandatory to give the resume for engineering manager position, they are not going to take a chance on you if they are so much involved in the processes, because then they will ask you to have 2 years or 5 years of engineering manager position. So you can ignore those companies. Second is when the recruiters are not going to reach out to you for engineering manager opportunities. They are going to reach out to you for the similar roles or like a level up roles as an IC. What I used to do, I used to go into their company career page and figure out if there are related engineering manager positions, and I would reply to them that I'm very interested in this role, but I'm also interested in this engineering manager role. How can you build a loop for me where I can interview for both them? I think about like 4 out of 5 people or recruiter agreed to it, and I had to like some said that you can do this loop for senior engineer, and then if we like it, then we may take one more interview for your engineering manager experiences. One thing I learned is that I had to build a lot of stories, and that's why a lot of story building and storytelling was there. That you have to, the examples you have in your experience, you have to build them in a way that you were not helping yourself, but you were helping the team to grow. That is the most important thing. And once you figure that out, there are companies outside, that they can hire you. Even there are like 2 years engineering manager expectation, but when you go, and that is also like a process people just follow, like what are the requirements, just use the last one. But when you go and ask the recruiters what this person would be doing next 6 months, ask this question to your hiring manager, and they will tell you, when they start telling you things, you will see the 70 to 80% of the task or goals they have for this person are the same things you are doing, and you can learn the people skill on the job. And then you can start telling them that even though you do not have this 2 years of experience on paper as a people manager, but as a tech lead you have been doing similar things and for like last 3 years or 5 years or even like 2 years. And when you know what you are selling, and what they are ready to buy, you can figure out a way to get into it. That is the easiest thing to do in there. Or targeted companies, like Ujjwal said, that he has a list of companies he wanted to try. It's like you're going into, when you get a job, you stay there for like minimum 2 years or like 5 years or even longer. You have to figure out which employer do you think would be a best fit for you, and then you start targeting them instead of going and putting a resume online and just waiting for some company to reach out and then hire you. This doesn't That's not how it works in the leadership positions. About initial period after the transition, this is what we talked about, is like how you get there. But what do you get in the first 3 months or 6 months into the engineering manager position? Like what are the perspective you had before, and what did you read, right? And what happens? It's like you read and watch online videos of how to do a boxing match, and then you get to it and you don't know how to do that because you just read and studied about it. There is one example is that when I got to the engineering manager position, I did my onboarding on the first day, and I was having one-on-one with the engineer. And after the introduction, like this is the first time I'm meeting with the person, and I was like, "Hey, what is your agenda for the meeting?" And I read about one-on-ones, how to conduct as an engineering manager, but I was never there. So I was just on the other side. And the first thing this person said is that they want to get promoted. And I was like, "This is my first day. I don't know anything about promotion process in this company, but I'll figure out, when do you want to get promoted?" And they were like, "Already, because I have spent 6 months in the company, and then I was promised that the career growth is fast here." So I didn't know how to react to it. I had to go back, ask for help. And you have tons of help available, right? You are engineering manager, but there is a senior manager or director who can help you out. There are people who can help you out in technical front. So that is something very important. Your first 3 months are going to be a little challenging. You will hit walls a lot of time. You will have to be open to have your perspective change. Your change of mind is going to happen like every few weeks as you go into the engineering manager position. Ujjwal, do you want to talk about your experience? Maybe give us one example. What is the most important thing you learned in the first 3 months?
So, first 3 months, I was surprised to see how reactive my days were. I manage a cross-functional team, so I have iOS, I have Android, and I have web. So, understanding the process and also delivering at the same time, um, I would go with the set agenda for the day. Things are filled up with meetings, but there are gaps here and there, and I know what exactly I'm going to accomplish in those gaps. But then we go into the sprint daily scrum meeting, and then there are so many action items that come out of it, and those would fill my gaps. So it was very reactive because I was trying to learn people, trying to learn the processes, trying to learn the release cycle. So I would just, as a tech lead, you are used to some amount of reactivity, but at the manager level, especially at the in the new company, that just exaggerates and takes on most of your first 2-3 months.
That's totally true. Um, One thing I learned, I think before I was getting into the engineering manager position, I thought I'm going to, go there, change everything, rock the boat, and make tons of improvements. And I was thinking I will be the one who will be the hero of the team. But that is not how it works. I figured out very quickly that you are just sitting on the side and helping your team to sign. And you are, when the failures happen, then you go in the front. Otherwise, you are always on the side, sitting there helping the team. So in one liner, it says like it's not about you, it's about your team. When you are an engineering manager, and you should be happy to see your team grow, happy to see the individual you respect grow in your team or outside of it. I know there are going to be a lot of questions on this particular slide and the prep side. We're going to talk about those in a Q&A, more personal experiences there. But I want to also take maybe 2 minutes to talk about why we want to get to the SDM, why you should take that opportunity or like check or explore the path. I always thought about why not, like why not you should do it. That is the one thing I used to think, but I think that is also kind of incorrect. Two things I used to think is that I will be not hands-on and I will stop coding, right? And I will not be technical. I think you will stop coding in your job, but if you love coding, you will figure out a way to do it in your personal time. Not hands-on. The hands-on definition for me was that you code. When you become a SDM, you become more SDM, more hands-on, and you can control how much hands-on skill, how much technology do you want to learn, because you own that part now. So that is very important. Let's go into some of the stuff we will get out of to SDM position. I know people want to talk about the fourth point, making more money, but I'll get to it. First is that you learn new skills. When you get to a SDM position, you are the forefront of your culture of the company. So your company is going to spend tons of resources on you to learn the leadership ability and organization skills as well. Because one thing is that as an SDM, your team see you as a company. They don't care like what your manager thinks or what their manager thinks or what they want to do. Like what you want your team to do and what they are going to get in return. Like what is the culture you are building? So you are basically the main point of building the culture. And then you learn communication, prioritization, delegation. Those are very good skills to not only do your SDM job better, but you become a better person and you can do things in your own personal time using that skill. So it's a free training. You get there, you learn those and be better. Scaling yourself is also important, that you have some skills. Like if you keep doing the same things again and again, you are going to get bored, right? So you want to see how you can share your expertise and have other people grow with you in that. And then you learn the new skills. When you have other people doing the things you have been doing, you have more time to do different things, progressing your career and staying close to the technology. I talked about it. I am more technology savvy now. I have learned so much different things than I had 2 years before. So my experience in the last 8 years and my experience in 1 year into an SDM is equal. I had same learning there. It feels like that I have been an SDM for like 10 years. I have learned so much in there. And when you learn so much, you are basically, you have what you had before you get to the SDM, and you learn more skills, so you progress your career. You can see how the career growth happens. So you are going to own that for yourself and your team. So you can obviously use those same skills for yourself. Making more money, it doesn't happen like as you go into the SDM. That is not the only thing happen to you. You're not going to get like um, the most money in your team. You will see that the SDs are making equal, if not more money in there. But as you see the third point, you are going to learn more. You will be the person who has technical knowledge. You will be the person who has SDM knowledge. With that, you will keep growing. You will start owning your career, and that will result in that you will be more financially secure in the long run. I know we will talk about some of these as well in the Q&A. The last slide we have is resources. So the book side, and these resources are the one which we use, Ujjwal and I use. The books, if you are going to read books, and then you must, there is no way around it. And the first book I would recommend is Power of Habits. Read that, understand how you can build habits and how you can do things differently, right? How you can undo the habits you have right now. And that will help you to read tons of books there or do things differently. And then if you do not like to read books, you can use Audible, and they have audio books, you can read those. If you don't want to do that as well, there's a YouTube channel. This is very small channel from Kunal Kalera. I don't know him personally, but I found it when I was researching some quick tips of some book, and I found out that he reads a lot of management and personal growth books, and he breaks them every chapter down to like 5 minutes, and then share the learnings from it. So you can watch YouTube videos and learn, read those books as well. If you become the SDM, if you are the SDM, and if you want to learn how to keep building your skills, how to do the things differently, go check out scarletinc.com by Dave Anderson. Dave is a senior leader, was a senior leader in Amazon and Facebook, and he shares his experiences there, a different perspective of doing things. I think it's paid subscriber based blog, but he also shared like free things as well, free blog post and the paid blog post, and that happens. If you want to know star methodology, you must know, because you are not going to pass the interviews without it. So read this article as well. Ujjwal also shared the courses and training she took. Like somebody was asking, what is the link for the system design course? It's here. What is the course name? It is there. And she also mentioned that she followed technology blogs, and that you will have to do as when you are an SDM, you have to keep building your skills. I know we are very close to the time, but I'm here. Ujjwal is here for next 15-20 minutes and answer any questions you guys have.
Yep, I cannot stress enough on that power of habits. When I started collaborating with Ankit on this presentation, we realized that we read the same book. In fact, in my first go 1 year ago, I didn't even finish that book. I read like 60%, and I was like, why am I reading this book when I know exactly what I need to do? So I went straight to the action, and that is when I enrolled for this system design course. The link is there in the resources, and the Harvard Business School course.
Thanks, Ujjwal. I think we are open to have some Q&A. Vivek?
Yeah, I think there are two questions already I can see. First one was, I'm just repeating a question that somebody asked, which was, can you talk about how and where to get mentorship to go from an IC to EM?
Yeah, I can talk about my experience. First, you have to figure out which path you are taking. If you are going to try the engineering manager position in your company, or even if you're not, you have to get mentorship out of your current org. Your manager, your manager's manager, they are always available to you, so you can reach out to them with question, but they are not your mentor. Your mentor should be like a two-level up person into a different org. You can also have mentors outside of your company, right? You can reach out to people on LinkedIn. You can post on LinkedIn that you're working on this plan and you are seeking mentors. People are more willing to help. I had mentors from my last job. I had mentors like two jobs before. I still talk to them whenever I get into something. I have some mentors who are my close friends, but they bear the mentorship hat when I have a specific question to talk about, and they are like doing those things. So your mentorship, you don't need to just have one mentor. You can have many, and you can figure out who are doing good in the area you are trying to get into.
Exactly. And one more thing I did there was I reached out to my ex-managers because you have worked with them. They already know your strengths and the room for improvement for you. So reached out, networked with them, and they also gave me access to some of the junior developers in their team. And I started mentoring them. So that was a two-way process. They got something out of me, and I got something out of them as well. So another option you can explore.
Excellent. Thank you. So another question that we have is from Suresh, who's asking that typically for a senior engineer, there are two paths that normally go. One is like engineering manager, or the other one is a TPM. So how would you decide like what traits that you want to consider when you want to choose one path versus the other? I know this is a little different from what topic we have, but what do you guys think? TPM versus SDM?
I think this is just my personal opinion. If you have a way to get to an SDM, you should choose that. You can get from SDM to TPM, but if you go to the TPM direction, I think it would be, as you grow more, it would be difficult for you to get to the SDM for two reasons. One is that um, you will not have that experience, right? And then as you grow, you want to have a higher level manager position as well. But when you go to the engineering manager path, like engineering manager, director, VP, you should have some experience on the lower level as well. Senior manager to in SDM, you will be comfortable doing it, and you will feel that's a step up for you. But as you go to the TPM path and you grow there, and you have more experience under your belt, then you will feel that you're getting demoted there. But that's my personal opinion. I do not have much experience in this direction.
Cool. I would also like to emphasize that in the long run, think where you are leaning towards. Are you leaning towards product side of it, or are you leaning towards more engineering or technical side of it? Because TPM, their day-to-day life revolves around the product. Even though they are technical, it is more about product. Whereas for engineering manager, it has chunks of product aspect to it, but it is more heavier on the technical engineering side. So if you enjoy that, then we all are more productive if we are doing something that we enjoy. So growth and everything aside, if that is your passion, then you can always go in the TPM route too. I have seen some very successful TPM in Microsoft as well as in Amazon. So it's a good route to explore as well.
That's a great answer, Ujjwal, that you should see what you want to be doing. But also you don't have to choose one. You choose like one right now, and then down the line, when you start getting bored in one direction, then you start figuring out how to transition to the another thing.
So incidentally, my transition to an engineering management was actually through a TPM. So I joined Amazon as a SDE, and then I transitioned to a TPM. And then within a year or so of that, I had people reporting into me. And then I formally transitioned to an engineering manager after that. So, I mean, it is as Ankit and Ujjwal were saying, do what makes sense for you. But also on top of that, it's not like a one-way door. You can always, keep progressing, and you can also reverse your decisions. By the way, you can always go back to an engineer if you don't like engineering management much. I mean, that path is also open. I know a lot of people have done that as well.
And you are not going to go back. You are going to go further, but be in IC.
Fair enough. I love the way you actually put it, because you evolve, and I mean, it's not
You
the same
evolve.
river anymore, right? So absolutely. So you're always moving ahead, but you're switching between different tracks, and that you can always go back to the IC track is what I meant. But you're right, absolutely. It's not like you're going back to being an engineering manager.
Yeah, like this Coda Factory came in. I was watching it yesterday, and there's the character of Jitu. He said when his students fail in IIT, cracking IIT, and they feel like they are like, how do we go back? But he said, like, you are a better person now. You are not going back. You are going to go ahead from here. That's the thing.
Cool. So I think we have the next question. Can you share what is the career path for engineering manager? So I can go first.
Yeah.
In any organization, you have the roles or promotions laid out, right? Engineering manager, senior engineer maybe, and then go for director or VP. So that depends on organization to organization. So even before you join, it is a good, and Murthy brings up a good point, that you should look into what is the career path for you in the company that you are choosing. And Ankit, he is actually 2 years into this journey, so I'm sure you have more to add on here.
I think you covered well that there are career paths laid out for every position in every organization. You should ask that question, like, independent of if you're getting to EM or to SD or to TPM. When you are interviewing, this is the one question you should always ask to the hiring manager: what does the growth look like in this role, and where do you see me in like 1 or 2 years? If your manager can see you in a higher position or like a different place in 2 years, that would be telling you how you can grow there.
Cool.
I think somebody asked, how did you manage stress being people manager then IC? It's an interesting question. Ujjwal, you must be doing that right now. What do you think?
Yeah, so I see 3 months into manage stress. I will be very candid with you guys. I struggled because I was overthinking so much. I was, every small decision that I was taking, I was overthinking over it, and it was stressful. But there are tools to manage that. And here the mentorship comes into picture. I reached out. In fact, I remember I talked to Vivek 1 month into the job. He gave me some great tools about prioritization. I went to my manager. He knows I am new manager. He knows, but he has been a manager for a longer time. So he had some input for me. One thing in the interview process, if you are transitioning into the new role in new company, it is very important that you demonstrate coachability. People want to know that you are coachable. So go with an open mind and be humble and ask, go with your problems and ask for solutions. And that is how you learn how to manage. And then there are other tools, like I did this exercise called Miracle Morning, which talks about savers. And we can just message me and we can talk more about it. But it helped me in managing my stress as well.
Okay, I think one thing which Ujjwal mentioned, I think it was a main point, that you shouldn't think that you are a one-man army there, right? You should always ask for help. Your manager is there, right? You are engineering manager, they're a senior manager or director, and you have to figure out what are you stressed about. If you are insecure about something, if you are thinking that you are not doing a good job, talk to your manager, figure out what steps can you take. But do not give 100% of your time to your job. This is a very basic thing. A lot of people learn that very late in their career. You should have your own hobbies. You should spend a hobby. You should spend time with your friends and family after the job. So if you are stressed about something, talk about it, right? Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your engineering manager, or like whoever is there you think knows or has gone through these, right? When you talk, the stress reduces.
Cool. Another question was, any recommendation of good companies that has great supportive culture for EM? Yeah, it is important to go for shoot for these companies, but how do you even know, right? One of the things that I used in my interview process was in the process you talk to 4 or 5 people at least, and in the manager interview loop you'll be meeting with folks from product management, folks from leadership, senior members from your team. Use them effectively to understand the team culture, because everybody will give you a different perspective. And relying on that information, you can see whether that company is the right fit for you.
That's true. Like I know that Ujjwal did not recommended names of the company, but you see answered how you can figure that out in your interviews with the hiring manager. Like in the end, you will have that. You have to ask those questions, and to all round, you have to ask your question to people. What does the growth look like in that company? How does the company support it? How the management supports that? And you have to figure out if you are getting right answers, the answers you are looking for.
Okay.
What is next?
Is there a difference in coding and system design interview session for EM compared to IC?
There are two questions that are related, so we can probably handle them together. One was like, what's the SDM role specifically for Amazon, level of depth required for all areas? So let me actually quickly do a TLDR version. I think you guys have covered that in detail. So please do watch this recording once it goes live. You'll probably see the session, the segments that Ankit and Ujjwal shared. But primarily from an Amazon perspective, what I've seen is, I mean, they're very big on leadership principles. So make sure that you're preparing for those. And the competencies that they're primarily covering are exactly what folks are talking about. It's people management, your ability to manage engineers, hire them, groom them, grow them, and performance manage them if the performance is not going well. Project management, product management around understanding your customer, execution and delivery of your projects, and then your ability to communicate with your peers, upward communication with the leadership, and direct communication with the engineers. I think a lot of details were covered by both Ujjwala and Ankit, so I would just encourage you to look at that. So that's one. System design expectations is actually vastly different between companies. Specifically, if you're looking at FANG companies primarily, I know that like, and I've seen Facebook and Google, they tend to hold your engineering manager on par in terms of interviews with a IC6 expectation, and that's kind of what they do. But then, if your performance is a little weak, they still let you through the system. The intention is that there is pretty common circumstances and scenarios where engineering managers do transition back to engineers, and engineers transition to engineering managers. So they want to make sure that you have the right skill set and you're still like technically savvy in order for you to make that leap back and forth. That's the principle there. Amazon TPM system design interviews and SDM system design interviews are similar, as in they're looking at your ability to have the end-to-end system flow, workflow, data flow in your mind, and you're able to logically and systematically break down the interview process. So Educative IO course actually breaks out amazingly well. That's I think Ujjwala recommended that. It's on the resources as well. That's what I would recommend. So that's like, sorry for jumping in, but it's at Amazon. As a former Amazon manager, I thought I would just jump in and answer that question. I did see another question which is very interesting, and I thought I'd love to hear your perspective. Like, now that you are an engineering manager, both of you, how much time do you spend? I mean, this is related to time management and stress management. So how much time are you spending? And can you compare and contrast that with an IC? And Ujjwala, why don't you go first?
Okay, I did spend more time. It in fact made it to my 90-day check-in. It's there in my official feedback about, and it came from my own team members, that how I was spending more time. So new job, new anxieties, you are also very motivated to learn. So you are ready to put in more time in there. So I was putting somewhere around 10 to 11 on daily basis because, and I didn't even realize I was putting that much because I was also trying to do coding. 2 months into it, it reduced. It went back to the normal 8 hours because you have to. In fact, I was doing like if I have to message somebody, I was using scheduling on the Slack because I, as a manager, don't want to message my team members in off business hours. So I was doing work, but I was scheduling them to go next day. But even then, the team realized that I was putting in more effort because I was also very anxious to prove. I was motivated to learn more, understand the processes, the domain I own. I'm accountable for that, so I have to spend more time to understand what I am accountable for. So initially, it was more. Now that I'm into 3 months, it is manageable. I try to wrap it up in 8 hours. That was about me. Ankit, what about you?
I think you mentioned a very similar experience what I had. I think in the first 3 months or even like 5 months, I had no clue on what I should prioritize on or what how to work on time management. I used to think that's a buzzword. I used to spend like 12, 16 hours a day in the first 3, 4 months, I would say, because I was trying to do everything, make progress, process changes, do coding, do architecture review, go into the people management meetings. And there was always ton of work left on me in the end of the day. But after after that, I took some trainings and figured out that I cannot, this is not sustainable and I have to prioritize the things. Right now, I think from last 1.5 year, I'm spending maybe 8 hours, 8, 9 hours in a day. And one of them, something helped me to reduce the time. One is prioritization, figuring out like what is important for you, what can you delegate. Second thing is I figured out my next day task on today. So every night when I'm in the job, I spend like half an hour, 10:30 to 11, just look into my schedule for next day or day after that, or maybe the whole week, and figure out what how can I manage that better. I earlier in the day I did not used to manage that, and I would have left work which I had to do in my personal time. Now I block time in my calendar. If I have to work on a document, I will just block an hour in my calendar and do that in that particular time if it is important, and block like last 2 hours of my day to complete the day task if I have any on me. That help me be more involved, and then more having more prioritized pipeline of my task and limit my time in the company. Vivek, I'm not following the chat. Do you? What questions will we take next?
Yeah, I just pasted the last one, which is so Akeem had a question, which is about what about other roles? You talked about engineer to engineering management transition, but what about like data engineer, data engineering, business intelligence? Like, can I, if I'm in those roles, can I get into an engineering management position? What's your experience been there?
Uh, um, I can tell you what you should be doing, because I do not like it is going to be my opinion. You have to like go back to these slides, right? The goal is that you figure out what does it take to be that person to that position, right? You break it down. And this rule I was talking about is 70 30%, 30 rule. So 70% of the task you should be just comfortable doing it. When you get into the job, you should be comfortable doing it. 30% of those things you can learn on the job. Why that? Because if you do 70% of the work, you will meet expectations from your manager or from your company, and you will feel comfortable. Otherwise, if you go into a totally new job, you might start feeling, as a failure and getting stressed on. So first is like any big task, break down what does that person do, and learn on those skills. Be at that 60-70% mark, and then start interviewing. See how it goes.
Nice. So I think we are pretty much at time. So I want to close this with one question for both of you. And I'll ask Ankit, you first. Like now that you've been an engineering manager for a couple of years, what is your biggest challenge at the moment? Like what are you battling? And then we'll go to Ujjwal after that.
That is a great question. The biggest challenge changes every month, every 2 months when you get into the new things. And I'm still working on how to transition to the next topic. How can I spend less time in my current work and then get there? When you become an SDM, I think I was having this discussion with my manager, who is a VP of tech, and I was asking what is the difference between a good and great manager? And he said, good manager, you have the responsibility of the team, you know everything in the team, you can get things done, and you are there. If you are not there, then the team will start breaking, right? And he said the great manager goes into that if you are not there, you make yourself redundant, right? And when you do that and your team can run without you, then you become a great manager, and then you can transition to the next thing. And I think I'm working more and more on that, making myself redundant and learning new things. That all the skills required for that, it becomes really difficult to feel that security that you can make yourself redundant, because you will think that if you are redundant, then they don't need you. But you should feel that security in yourself, that you are in good shape, you can have the job, you can try anything next. So learning that skill is kind of a, something I'm doing, and I think it's challenging as well.
Nice. What about you, Ujjwala?
So at the moment, I am battling the prioritization actually. As an engineering manager, by now I know the domain that I own, the account, the systems that I own, and from technical perspective, I want to get some things done. At the same time, I work with my product management team, right? And they also have too many things, and they are exciting initiatives. So how to strike balance between the technical work that not necessarily may not give any product value, and also balance the work that is, or initiatives that are owned by product management. So how to strike a balance for my team in these two aspects. That is what I'm working on these days.
Fantastic points. And just like in full disclosure of sorts, right? So I have been an engineering manager for like a little more than 10 years at this point of time, and I still am constantly struggling and battling a bunch of different challenges. Like one of the new challenges that I have is at this point of time is around, it's about hiring, and I feel like I'm doing fantastically well at hiring, but every day is a new challenge. And so Facebook has a different process of where people come into the boot camp and then you reach out and whatnot. And my reach out response rates are abysmally low. I reach out to a bunch of people and then the response rates are low. Now, I don't know if it's appropriate, not appropriate in terms of level. So trying to do some debugging, figuring out what process of the funnel is actually broken, plugging in the leaks and things like that. So it's a new problem. It's a different problem, but it's a different manifestation of a common problem set. So that's just my challenge. Just wanted to throw in there that as well. I know we've been discussing for a little over like an hour and a quarter now at this point of time. So thank you both Ujjwala and Ankit for spending this time with us. I know a bunch of prep has gone into it, and you've been pretty generous with your time. We appreciate that, and thank you so much. So what I wanted to do with that is close this conversation here. Just wanted to do a quick plug for SDE Skills as well to finish this off. So SDE Skills is a 501c3 nonprofit. So please feel free to participate, engage in any of the discussions that we have. We do lead coding questions and primarily focus on engineers, but we also have topics which help with engineering management, product management, SRE skills, and a whole bunch of other gamut of things. So if you are interested in presenting any topic, feel free to ping either Bhavesh or I or anyone in the admin panel in the Discord, and we will gladly get you set up with this. Somebody had asked in the chat saying like, hey, why are we pivoting to engineering management and product management from engineers? Like SDE Skills, the bread and butter is like, developers. So why are we going away? This is a very commonly asked topic. Like, I mean, people, once they are an engineer for a while, they are debating whether there are other roles and disciplines that they need to, expand their skill set. So this was an often asked topic. And I was chatting with Ujjwal and Ankit at a different points of time, and I asked them if they could think about sharing this, and they agreed to do that, and that's where it is. We did have a TPM session a few months ago. I think somebody asked for that link. I put that in the chat. So this will go on YouTube typically in the next week or so. Unfortunately, we are a little backlogged. Again, it's an entirely volunteer-led, volunteer-driven ecosystem. So please don't yeah, please don't mind. It may take a little while for us to get there. And we will post the resources in a blog post as well. And we'll also add the YouTube videos up there. So with that, I'll stop the recording.
Yeah, okay. Before we close, I would like to thank you, Vivek, for giving us this opportunity in Ways, and Ujjwal for having this great partnership. I know that we have spent so many, evenings to do this. And thank you everyone to joining. I know it's so tough to get like an hour and a half on Sunday. And then I see so many people joining from India. Like, I know that you guys have to go back to work tomorrow morning. So thank you all for your time on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. So what I'll do is I'll stop recording.